I have to do something about that, though. Yeah, all right. What are some things we can learn from the Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox traditions, and where are they wrong? Okay, and where they're wrong. Okay, go. So Roman Catholics, what over the years have I learned from Roman Catholics? I would say it's their sacramental view of the world. And here's what I mean by that. A sacramental view of the world. They have a way of looking at creation, natural things, and seeing the spiritual significance behind them in a way that often us Protestants don't do a great job of. For example, in Ephesians chapter 5, Paul is writing about marriage, about the relationship between a husband and a wife. But in the midst of that, he goes, but I'm really talking about Christ and the church. In other words, in his view, something common like marriage is actually behind it. There's a much bigger mystery of Christ's relationship for the church and his plan for salvation. And in common things, be it water or bread or wine, each one of those, it's just a common object. But behind it, there's this whole mysterious symbolism to it. Sometimes us Protestants don't get. Oh, wow, that's 1 minute already. Eastern Orthodox, I would say they have this thing called theosis, which is like our version of sanctification, only on steroids. When we talk about sanctification, it's like, oh, it's a little bit of moral improvement over time. Theosis means we are becoming like the sons and daughters of God. It's not just, oh, I hope I can become a little more patient next year. It's like, I'm going to be a star shining in the heavens one day. And it's a really fully developed idea of Christian growth that I think we could learn something from. And where are they wrong? I think whenever they ask the question, what does a sinful person need to do in order to be right with God? Sometimes you get a very confused answer. I think one of the things I love about being a Protestant, and even though I try to learn from Eastern Orthodox and Catholic Christians, I'm strongly Protestant. And the question is, what must I do to be saved? Believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. Nice, crisp, clear answer from the scripture. I'm not going to give you a whole long list of things to do and ceremonies to go through. Put your trust in Jesus. All right, sorry, man, that was terrible. All right, I failed that one. You guys can just click it off. How many of my... Okay, why is there injustice and why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? Go. There is injustice in the world. Injustice is just the absence of justice. And the reason this world has so much injustice is because we are a world apart from God. If we tell God, we don't want you in our world, he removes his presence, and all of a sudden there's a void. There's a lack of justice, which we call injustice. God is light, and if you remove yourself from God, you have darkness. God is love. If you remove yourself from God, you have hatred. God is truth. If you remove yourself from God, you have lies. We have injustice in this world because we have decided to steer our existence as a human race apart from God, from the time of Adam onward. Why does he allow bad things? So that's why bad things happen. Why do they happen to good people? To quote somebody else, bad things only happen to a good... That only happened once, and he volunteered. There was one good person named Jesus. He allowed bad things to happen for your sake and my sake. Done. Okay, I made one. Yeah, I'm gonna applause. All right, next one. Does the Bible teach that the earth is flat? How we deal with verses that suggest that it is? Go. One, I'm not sure exactly which verses you're referring to. There are verses in the Bible that would say things like, to the ends of the earth, or, carry the gospel to the ends of the earth, or the angels held the winds of God's judgment at the four corners of the earth. But that has more to do with just how language works. The English language, the Hebrew language, the Greek language, they're written from the standpoint of human experience. So in English, we talk about the sun rising. Oh, did you see the sunrise this morning? Or did you see the sunset last night? Okay. Did the sun actually rise? Or did the sun actually set? Well, no, but it's just a lot easier than saying, oh, did you notice the rotation of the earth this morning? Is it, We talk from the standpoint of human experience, not accuracy, and that's true in Hebrew, in the Old Testament, Greek, and so the Bible is written from a standpoint of human observation, and I can answer more later. Done. Okay. How should we view different religions like Mormonism? Go. So that's different. You differentiate between the idea and the people. God hates bad ideas because bad ideas hurt people. Okay? Not just when it comes to religion, but any poisonous ideology, we are against bad ideas, be it against God, against life. Why? Not because we hate Mormons or hate Muslims or hate atheists. No, we love people and we love Jesus, and we want to tell the truth about who Jesus is, and we want to tell the truth about who God is. In 2 Corinthians chapter 10, Paul talks about we tear down every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of Christ. That's why you see Jesus debating the Pharisees and the Sadducees over the nature of resurrection. You see Paul debating the philosophers in Athens over the nature of the resurrection, not because he hates people and loves arguments, but because he loves people and wants truth. There you go. Next. Is it wrong to read Jesus in an Old Testament passage when it doesn't seem to be part of the original context? Go. So when I first became a Christian, I heard people talk to me about what they called messianic prophecies. And that was in the Old Testament, there's these handful of prophecies that talk about how one day Jesus is going to come in the world. And the way I thought about it was, okay, maybe there's 10 or 20 or 40 different places where the writer of an Old Testament book would be writing their book and say, oh, just a minute, I have a prophecy now about the Messiah who's one day going to come in the world. Generally, if you see how the way New Testament writers refer to the Old Testament, that's not how they see it. The New Testament writers, when they quote the Old Testament, they see the whole thing. From Genesis to Malachi, the whole Old Testament as one giant prophecy pointing to Jesus. And at first, we don't see that until once you know who Jesus is and what he did, you begin to see Jesus everywhere. When Abel gets killed by Cain and his blood cries out for vengeance, all of a sudden it reminds you of Jesus. How Jesus was an innocent who was killed, his blood cries out for mercy, and many other stories like that. So, there we go. Next. Should Christians celebrate Pride Month? No. Next. Go ahead. So, in the Bible, pride is not a great thing. Pride, full stop. Like, even just take out the homosexual element to it, it's just pride. Pride as a whole is never talked about in a good way. It's Proverbs 16:5. It says, the proud in heart are an abomination to the Lord. And you mix that together with any form of sexual immorality, be it homosexual, sexual immorality, or heterosexual, whether you're out celebrating fornication, hey, me and my girlfriend are sleeping together, hey, I'm cheating on my husband, mixing that with pride, man, get some fire insurance on your house. That's not going to go well. Pride in general, even pride over good works. It's not just pride over sins, going around and saying, look what a great Christian I am, that doesn't work either. So no pride of any form. Don't celebrate pride in any shape, way, or form. Would be good. All right, next one. Why did Christians make the day of Christ's resurrection Sunday their day of rest when the original day of rest was the Sabbath or Saturday? Good question. There's probably a few different reasons for that. One, of course, Jesus rose from the dead on what? On a Sunday. So that was a big part of it. It reminded that Jesus, it's like he's made a whole new creation. God created the whole heavens and the earth. He rested on the seventh day, which is the Sabbath or Saturday. So the Jews would observe the Sabbath. But then Jesus comes and he makes all things new. So Jesus rose from the dead on the 8th day. And it was a new creation. How many people were in the ark? 8. 8 people were in the ark. You go into a church and you see the baptismal font for babies and children in a Lutheran, Catholic, or Anglican church. It has 8 sides to remind you of Noah. 8 is the number of new beginnings. It's the number of grace, biblically, and just biblical numerology. It symbolizes grace. So we just don't meet on the first day of the week. We meet on the 8th day of the week because we're celebrating a new beginning and a new world. All right, next question. What does the Bible teach about art generally, or art in church? Can we have paintings or statues of Jesus or the biblical characters? Is this a form of idolatry? All right, go. In some parts of the world, they take that very seriously. Like if you're in the Muslim world, no picture of any prophet at all. not just of God or the Messiah, like not even a prophet. That's seen as blasphemy. Most Christians throughout most of the time have been fine with artwork because they understand the difference between, or they should understand the difference between artwork and idolatry. Now, unfortunately, there have been times in Christian history where icons, and we don't have icons in our church, but in some church traditions, at least things called icons, these things that are meant to inspire prayer, people end up praying to them instead. When the Reformation came along, there was a big problem confusing items of art with idolatry. A lot of the reformers got rid of just all statues, particularly, maybe not always paintings, but statues. But even John Calvin, who's kind of thought of as like the leader in all this, he said, it's not so much that the Bible forbids artwork, it's just that we currently live in a time and a place where people confuse it with idolatry. If we were able to get past that, then artwork in the church of biblical scenes should be fine. Art and aesthetics have its place, but in any form of art, there can be an element of idolatry that slips in. In the Old Testament, the second commandment, thou shalt not make a graven image. The Hebrew word is peshkel there, and it's not talking about a painting or artwork generally. It's really a three-dimensional statue. So it wouldn't have any reference to a two-dimensional picture or a painting of Jesus. It would really refer to a statue, and it's a graven image, one that is designed for worship. Because even in the Old Testament, they had statues. The Ark of the Covenant had statues of angels over them. When the people of Israel were under God's judgment, Moses made a statue, a three-dimensional image of a snake to look at. So they did make statues sometimes, but it was a graven statue, a peskel, a three-dimensional object for the purposes of worship. So the Bible, at least as far as I can see, does not forbid art, even statues. It's how it's being used where sin and problems can come in. Okay, I really broke the time there on that one. Yeah. Should preachers ever plagiarize sermons from other preachers? How should the church respond if they do? Go. Okay. Go back. There we go. So I can only think, what sort of situation would I do this in? If I was in another church, let's say I was on vacation, or maybe I'm watching sermons on the internet, and I hear an amazing word, an amazing sermon, and it blesses my life, and it blows me away. I'm like, wow, I got so much out of that. I might think I want to bring that to you guys as Bethel, because I got so much out of it personally. I want to say, oh, I want to take that same message and that same teaching and bring it to my church, because I got so much out of it. And so I don't think it's wrong then to take another person's message and bring it. But if your sermon is like 70, 80, 90% from the mind of someone else, you should at least give them credit for it. Like if I ever get up and say, hey, I heard this great sermon from Jack Hayford or Tim Keller or whatever the preacher of the month is, and I just want to give it to you, but I should at least say up front, most of these ideas are from him. Usually in my experience, if I ever come across someone who's plagiarizing sermons, usually it's a real young guy straight out of Bible college who's absolutely petrified, who's been in Bible college and has no idea what they're doing, and they get up and they just repeat their favorite sermon from their favorite preacher. And so usually, how should the church respond? If a preacher's ever caught plagiarizing, the church should just sit down and say, why? Why? Is it just you don't have any confidence in your own voice? Are you insecure? Or maybe you're new at preaching and you just need some coaching? Do you think that your own sermons suck and you need to rely on someone else? What can we do why did that happen? Was it out of fear or was it out of laziness? Like what's the motive behind this? Let's work. Again, this is usually a thing for brand new guys right out of Bible college who have no idea what they're doing. And they just look to their mentors and try to copy what they're doing. And those young guys, usually in their early 20s or something, they need a lot of help and coaching. So I wouldn't be too quick to judge a young man who's maybe preaching for the first few times and relying too heavily. But if you do, you should give credit for it. All right, next. How does a healthy church structure look like? How does accountability work for church leaders or members? Go. Health for a church doesn't come through structure. I've seen healthy churches that are like bishop-led, like Episcopal sort of things. I've seen healthy Presbyterian churches with their church structure, and healthy congregational churches like what we have here, where we kind of vote on everything, I've seen healthy churches in all of those different forms, and I've seen unhealthy churches. You can have the most healthy, best structure in the world, but if people have prideful, divisive attitudes, it's going to be toxic. Likewise, you can have other church structures that are less than ideal, but if everyone is patient and gracious with one another and coming in with a humble spirit, it's going to work. So structure can hinder you, but it's really not going to make the difference between the health or ill health of the church. Everyone in the church should have someone they're kind of accountable to, particularly leaders. So in our situation, that's me and the elders. I have to report to the elders. Okay. I made it. Yeah. All right. Feeling good. Next. If I love Jesus, why do I need to go to church? Can't I be a Christian without church? Go. No. Why? The idea of being a follower of Christ but not part of a community, it's just a foreign idea to the New Testament. Like, I can imagine asking the Apostle Paul that question after he went around throughout the Roman Empire starting all these congregations. Hey, can it just be me and Jesus, cowboy style? I'm riding out to the wilderness and it's just me by myself, me and Jesus. That's completely foreign to the New Testament. We are forming the family of God. Our goal is to form the family of God. God is now your Father. You have all these obnoxious brothers and sisters that you get to spend the rest of your life learning how to get along with. And that's called spiritual growth right there. We're part of a family. You say, but I don't like families. Families are difficult. Yes, you get the idea. We're all one big family. We're learning to love one another. That is key and central to the gospel. So just me and Jesus alone, it's just nowhere to be found anywhere in the New Testament. Next. Is it enough to believe Jesus died for our sins and rose from the dead to get to heaven? Go. The question seems to be confused about what heaven is. When we come to Jesus to have a relationship with our Heavenly Father. He's our daddy now. We live with him. We follow him. He shapes and molds our life. Like, guys, if you're a Christian, the goal of our life is to know the love of Jesus and love him back, to walk with him. If Jesus is out in the country, I want to be in the country. If Jesus is in the city, I want to be in the city. If Jesus is in hell, I want to be in hell. If Jesus is in heaven, I want to be in heaven. What do you think makes heaven heaven? The good weather? The air conditioning? No, see, heaven is heaven because Jesus is there. We're going to be with him for eternity. And so when I come to Jesus and believe that he died for my sins, it's so that I can have a relationship with him in this life and the next. Listen, if you're not interested in praising Jesus, worshiping Jesus, learning about Jesus, following Jesus, obeying Jesus, don't go to heaven. It's going to stink. You're going to be miserable there. You come to Jesus because you want him to be your everything in this life and the life to come. If you don't want Jesus to be your everything, stay away. Stay away from him. There's another place you can spend eternity where Jesus won't be. Next. Is that the last one? Oh. What is some biblical guidance on how to approach the new AI, artificial technology that's becoming so widely spread? Yeah, great question. I knew this question was coming up, so I printed this off. This came out just at the beginning of this week. It says, brain reading devices allow paralyzed people to talk using their thoughts. And it took two completely paralyzed people up and hooked up all the computers to their brains, and they're actually able to have a conversation just using their thoughts with one another. It's fascinating. I didn't even know we were close to that sort of technology, but apparently on a basic level we can. Technology by itself is neither good nor bad. It's how human beings use it that makes it good or bad. The internet can be great. A lot of people have got saved on the internet. Through the internet, we've got the gospel into the Muslim world, into communist countries that we couldn't have otherwise. Praise God. But how do you know there's also a lot of other junk on the internet? Not all of it's good. Not all of it's bad. It's how people use the internet. Same with AI, the new artificial intelligence. There's always a human element to it. So it's the human element, using it for sinful purposes or good purposes. But don't be naive. It's not going to be just good. There's going to be a shadow side. You hear about this, you're like, ooh, hooking up brains to computers so people can talk to one another. How wonderful. It doesn't take a lot of imagination to think how there can be a dark side to brain-computer interface. So, any more? How should we follow people versus following Christ? You know. Guys, we follow Jesus. Follow Jesus. Don't follow human beings. Don't follow me. Don't follow the elders. Don't follow your favorite preacher on the internet. We follow Jesus. Only imitate people to the degree that they're following Jesus. If you see somebody, maybe in this congregation, and they're very patient and graceful with difficult people, well, maybe get around them and figure out, how did they do that? I see you so gracious and patient with difficult people. I want to be like that. And the reason you want to be like that is because you know Jesus is like that. So we follow Jesus, but in some ways we can follow other people in so far as we see Jesus in them. If we see something of Jesus, I appreciate that person's boldness. They're very courageous. They speak the truth. I want to be like that in that regard. But for other people, it might be a very different element. You can be following like 5 different people if you see Jesus in them in different ways. You're never following a person like you follow Jesus. Jesus, everything you see in Jesus, you can follow. With other people, you have to be selective. I like their courage, but I don't like X. I like their patience, but I don't like Y. And so you have to be a little more nuanced in how you follow other human beings. You're only following Jesus in them, not the whole of who they are. Okay. If God is not a God of confusion, why is the Bible so confusing? Go. Generally, I don't. I think when people say this, I don't think the Bible is as confusing as some people seem to suggest. There are large parts of the Bible that are very direct and simple and straightforward. Genesis, Psalms, Proverbs, the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Most of the epistles, not all. Hebrews is a little complicated. Now there's some other sections, Leviticus, Numbers, some of the prophetic writings, Isaiah, Jeremiah, some Zechariah stuff. Zechariah and Ezekiel, they're nuts, okay? There's 66 books in the Bible. Some are simple and straightforward. Go home, read the book of Mark. I became a Christian as a teenager reading the Bible alone in my room. The simple bits. There are more confusing bits, but that's why that's why the church gives us teachers. That's why we have teachers. That's why we have men and women who are older in Christ who can help explain to us the more complicated bits. The Jews did this because back then, 3,000 years ago, life was like this. Oh, I understand that. And so we need teachers to help us with the bits that are more confusing. All right. Is there any more? Is that it? All right. Fantastic.